every single digital photographer needs to get themselves one of these, a Fujifilm Instax Link Wide printer. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Canon shooter, Nikon shooter, Sony shooter or Fujifilm shooter. As digital photographers, we all suffer from the same common challenges. And I never thought I'd say this, but this printer is literally one of my favourite purchases that helps to just alleviate some of those challenges. I'm not being paid by Fujifilm, I don't have any affiliate links to make any money from this. This is purely from one photographer who has enjoyed this printer far more than I ever thought I would. Giving you my thoughts, because you may enjoy it, and if you're watching this video, I guess you're at least slightly curious. So to start things off, let's talk about the fun factor, because I find that I have so much fun using this, but also these themselves are fun. And so what I mean by that is you're on your computer, you're sat here, you're editing, and you took a banger, you've edited a banger, and you are so happy. You then just get that image onto your phone or your iPad, and then you whip it across to the Instax printer, and it prints out these amazing little, almost like memory prompts. And so I think that these are slightly different to big prints, and I'll go into that a little bit more later. But the reason why I find these so fun is because as a photographer, me and you, we have the same experience in that the photos I take will mean so much more to me than to you. And photos you take will mean so much more to you than will mean to me. And that's because you have the memories associated with the photo. You knew what you had to overcome, what you did that day, what you did before, what you did after. You can then imagine the people that you met at that location. There's so much more that goes into just the photo than kind of what is seen here. And so by having these are like a little memory unlock, which is, I find it so fun that I can have a huge stack of pictures and I can flip through and be like, this is when I was on a beach in Holland and it was a really sunny, warm day and the most beautiful sunset. This was along the South Bank, of course. Flick around, this is in Borough Market. Having this format just gives you those memory prompts, which are so enjoyable as a photographer, and it reminds me why I like doing photography. Because sometimes when you're on your computer, you've got all of your images on your digital library, tucked away in folders, and you have to think, oh, okay, I need to go, or I want to go and find X photo. You have to then go and hunt that down, and you don't stumble across other images. And it's a very different experience when you've got just a whole stack of essentially little memory unlocks just chilling next to you versus on your computer that you have to sift through to get to one image that you feel like looking into in that moment. And so I find that having all of these little Instax prints, they serve a different purpose compared to getting a big photo printed. When you're getting a big photo printed, that's really about the artistry. You're looking at the image as a whole, you want to study it, and that image in itself is so interesting. And yes, it will always be higher quality, but you have to put that much more thought and effort into that. You have to think about what type of print do you want? What sort of paper do you want? What sort of border do you want? Are you going to frame it? Where are you going to store it? How are you going to get it delivered? There's all these little things that you have to think about, which I know definitely in my case adds a little bit of resistance for me to get my photos printed. Whereas with these, it is so easy and simple. It's literally into the app, press a button, prints. It is absolutely fantastic. And I kind of like that the quality on these is not as good as a big print, because it then makes it feel even more like a memory unlock. And it's also different to film photography, because in film photography, you're limited by the amount of rolls that you have, the amount of shots within each roll, the type of film that you have. Whereas with these, you've taken the photos digitally. You can edit them as you want, and you don't have any misfires, you don't have any over or under exposures. Every photo is kind of as you want them. And that means that every single one of these, I enjoy looking at. I enjoy flicking through them, and I'm happy to show them to anyone. And in my eyes, that makes it so much more freeing, because I can be very experimentative with what I'm doing with things, and I don't have to worry about spending money doing a shot that I don't think is actually going to work. And to then be able to capture that in memory form I absolutely love it. And as well as this, Instagram is the only place where us as digital photographers can really go to share our work. And as I'm sure all of you are well aware, Instagram very much favours portrait orientations, tall images. And I think that that's very creatively stifling. I think that it is killing our creativity as photographers for a bunch of different reasons. And the one that I mainly resonate with is that we don't see the world kind of in portrait mode. We see the world in landscape mode. Everything that as humans we are typically interested in are along the horizon line. Whether that's trees, whether that's predators, whether that's prey, whether that's other people. We look and scan across the horizon. We're rarely doing this kind of looking motion. And so I find that images that are landscape orientation are that much more engaging, right? And so by having a wide printer, you then have a reason to shoot wide, to have somewhere where you can go and show these photos, somewhere where you can actually feel like they're not just sat in your hard drive taking up space. And that's something that I didn't really appreciate when I bought it, but in hindsight, I'm just like, I love just being able to look at that and be like, that is beautiful, I absolutely love it. And the other thing that I think is so amazing with these Instax printers is that you can share these memories. You can print out as many different versions of the same photo as you want and give them to people. And that I think is so sick. I love it. Because as photographers, right, hear me out on this one. As photographers, we have the gift of photography. We have the ability to see a memory happening, see a memory developing, and to be able to capture that in a beautifully aesthetic way. And then to be able to give that to someone, I think is invaluable. And yeah, you can send someone a WhatsApp message with all these photos. That's great, and I'm sure that they enjoy it. But I don't know about you, but personally, I don't really go through my WhatsApp messages checking to see, I don't know, just like the photos that people have sent me. Sometimes I do, but it's not often. Whereas every time anyone sees a stack of Polaroids, they always want to have a flick through. And I think that it's just such an amazing form factor to be able to give them to people. And yeah, again, you can give them a big print, but I think that a big print, there's a bit more of a burden. There's where do you store it? Do you hang it up? Do you frame it? And it's very different to just handing them one of these. If they don't like it, they can chuck it. Whereas with a big print, I don't think anyone is, I don't know, they'll feel a little bit guilty trying to chuck out a big print. And as well as this, I find that when you give someone, even just to look at one of these, people will really look at it and will intensely study it. And to me, I find that so personally satisfying and enjoyable that I've created a photo, an image that someone wants to really look at. And yeah, you can grab your phone and be like, yeah, look at that. But that at the end of the day, people are so used to flicking on their phone, whereas you just give them one of these and it's a whole different experience. And I absolutely love that. So why would I choose the Fujifilm Instax Link Wide, Wide Link printer over anything else? There are a whole bunch of different reasons, but the number one reason is that these are the perfect size. And so what I mean by that is I can hold a whole bunch of them in my hand and flick through them. They are the perfect size in terms of being able to actually see the image. I find that anything that's smaller than this, you would be struggling to see anything, really. I mean, I'm sure you could see the gross image, but you wouldn't be able to see any of the details. Whereas with this, you still just about get that. I think that if you went any smaller, you'd start losing that. But they're also so small that they're not a burden. They don't take up that much space, and I can flick through them and hold them in my hand and play with them, which then encourages me to look at them and to unlock those memories again and to feel that joy of photography, which at the end of the day is what we all love. So I think that the size of them is absolutely perfect. It's also better than the typical Polaroid-y type point and instant print photos, because to have the capacity to print photos and take photos at the same time, it's a trade-off, isn't it? And so to have the ability to use your expensive digital glass and digital cameras to then take the photos, to then process them as you want, to then print them, I think it just leads to such better quality than just using the plastic glass that's inside some of these other point and print cameras. Yeah, I still find that they feel like a memory, which is the dream. And I cannot describe how much I love it. You also don't have to bring another camera. you can bring purely your digital DSLR, your mirrorless camera, and then you can print it out later. You don't have to have another camera. You don't have to trade off some of your lenses that you're thinking of bringing because you need to take this instead. And that also alleviates some of the decision fatigue that you may get when you're out at a shoot and you're like, do I try and shoot this memory that I think will be really beautiful on this Polaroid and risk it being overexposed, underexposed, or completely missing focus? Or do I just take it on my digital camera, make sure I nail it, and then bang it out later? I think that this is the perfect spot for people who are actually into their photography versus people that just want to bang stuff out and have, I guess, like a fun toy to play with. So I hope that you enjoyed that passionate outburst about the Instax printer. If you want one, Google it. Mine is in a lovely mocha grey. I'm not quite sure whether Fujifilm know the colour of a mocha, but hey ho. So I guess until next time, peace.